Hello again, everyone. Now, almost 200 masks later, I'm ready to show you how I made these masks. Okay, I flipped to a different webcam and you're seeing my mini ironing board. The first step in the process is to cut two pieces of cotton fabric, 7.5 by 8. So there's the 7.5, there's the 8. The top, which will form the position above the nose, is here, and that should be sewn at about 1/2 inch. The bottom should be sewn at about 1/4 inch to attach the two. Next, here's one in the next stage. Flip it open a little bit and use the iron to press the top seam wide open on the inside. And then that bottom seam, you can just press it flat. One way or the other doesn't matter. Then you flip it around, inside out, and position your fingers just under the top seam. And this is where we're going to put in the pipe cleaner. So let me put that one aside. So here's one where I already put in the pipe cleaner. I'm just going to remove that single pin here and show you that since the seam is open, it's very easy to just put the pipe cleaner underneath, lay it flat, pull a little bit on each side, and if you like, put in one pin. I don't use pins very much in my sewing. I prefer to use one here and there and ironing. So when I have this done, I'm ready to go back to the sewing machine, and I'll show you what I did in the next step. At the sewing machine, I top stitch just below the pipe cleaner. That is about 1/4 inch or just a little more, just to make sure that you miss the pipe cleaner. Top stitch there. There's no reason at this point to back stitch, just top stitch. And then at the other end, make sure that this was pressed before you do this. It makes it easier. Then do another top stitch at about 1/8 inch. When that's done, you need to cut the pipe cleaners. So let me just go back to that one. And this excess here should be cut with an old pair of scissors, not your fabric scissors, or wire cutters. So I'm using these wire cutters here, and I basically just position it something like this, pull back a little bit so it goes a little bit further inside the slot, and click. You don't want the wire to be sticking out there. Okay? So you cut the pipe cleaners on either side, and then you're at this step. Now you'll notice I have a crease there. This is how I make that crease. I flip it upside down. So here is the top of the mask. And I just fold it up to about 1 inch, maybe 3/4 inch from that bottom edge. Okay, so this is the top that has the pipe cleaner, but I fold this to about 3/4 inch. Now, if you follow some patterns, they will tell you to measure and mark. I've done so many of these that I don't measure and mark anymore, and I find this a lot simpler. So once you've put that one crease in, it makes it a lot easier to create your pleats by eye. So then I open it up like this, and I grab with my fingers, they're about 1 inch from my top stitching, and fold it down, and I adjust it a little bit. Then I grab this folded one, or this creased one, and fold that down. Now you see I have two nice pleats. See, they're about 1 inch. Then I use my iron to press, and then I grab, and I make the last pleat at the bottom. So I have one already done and pressed, so I'm going to leave this one, put it back here, and I'll show you the one that's done and pressed. So it looks like that when it's open. But since I pressed it with the iron, it's ready to go to the next step. So it looks something like this. one thing I didn't mention earlier on is you're going to need 2 little pieces of fabric for the slots at the 2 edges. And here's 2 for one mask, and they are 2 inches by 4 inches. Okay, there was the original pattern I followed was a slightly smaller measurement, but I decided to use 4 inches by 2 because I felt it worked better for me. So there we go. The next thing I would do is go to the sewing machine with that. And if you'd like to pin it, that's fine, but I don't, as I said, I don't use too many pins. And I just did one very close edge stitch to keep my pleats closed so they don't move around after I press them. The next step is to take the 2 pieces that I showed you, these 2 pieces, and attach them. So we flip it over to the reverse, and we position somewhat like this, noting that there is a excess fabric that's going to be folded over to the other side. Okay, so like this, it should stay right on the edge. Right. Okay. So what happens is that you're going to fold that over, and do that on both sides, and then create and stitch down that way about 1/4 inch. So here's one that I did. Okay, so you'll notice on this side that there are 2 pins I put in there just to hold it in place. Again, depending on how I feel, I use pins or I don't, but you can certainly do that just to hold it so when you're at the sewing machine you can sew down and pull the pins as you need to. The stitch side here looks something like this. I do back stitch here and here. So when you flip it over, this is what you see. Okay, you'll see that little bit of extra fabric, about 1/4 inch there. So what happens after you finish both sides is you have to flip that open. So let me show you the next step. Here's one at that next step. Okay. At that next step, you're seeing this folded over, and then I went to my trusted iron, and I pressed flat down here, flat up here, and I folded over here. This is about 1/4 inch. You do the same thing on both sides, and then here's the other side. Once you do that, you go to the machine and you top stitch. Now, I did the top stitching on this side, so this is the reverse. The white side is the side that goes against the face. So I did my top stitching right across there, down there, and there. And that's repeated on the other side. Once you do both sides, then you go back to the right side, and you still have that folded edge that you press with the iron. Again, some of you may prefer to pin it first, but I don't. I just go by eye to the sewing machine, and I carefully back stitch and go down, stitch down, and back stitch there. And do that to both sides, and then you're done. So here's the completed mask showing the stitching on both sides, and the reverse looks like that. And it looks nice and neat on both sides following this process. And then you have the slots to put in elastic, as I mentioned in my other video, elastic or string, shoelaces, also t-shirt yarn is a good option as well. And then expand the mask and wear it. Remember that it needs to be washed regularly, and these masks are not a substitute for physical distancing or washing your hands, but they do prevent you from sharing droplets as a result of coughs, sneezes, or just plain talking. So thank you again for watching my video, and let me know if you have any comments. Bye for now.